When it comes to Rangers, I think most of us picture this guy.
You will suffer me.
I mean, who doesn't want to be Aragorn of Arathorn? But in D&D, does it turn out like that? There's a lot of ways to interpret Rangers in TTRPGs. Maybe they're hunters, trackers, guerrilla warfare specialists. The subclass really determines what flavor of Ranger your character is going to be. When the 5th edition Ranger first came out, it was considered pretty weak as a standalone class. A lot of potential for multiclassing, but not much as a straight class. Some of that was because of the scaling beyond 5th level, but some of it was also because of their subclasses being pretty lackluster. The Ranger has had a lot of updates since then that have risen their abilities to more functional levels, to a point. So for the purposes of this video, we will be using the most up-to-date abilities for the 5th edition Ranger. I'm looking at you, Beastmaster.
The Beastmaster. Born with the strength of a black tiger. The courage of an eagle.
Also, we're not using any of the new 2024 material. Videos on that will come in the future. Now back to the subclasses. Subclasses for the Rangers can really influence their flavor and how you play the class as a whole. Rangers refer to them as their conclave and choose theirs at 3rd level. They have 8 to pick from, but which to take? What's going to make us look like special forces and what's going to have us huddling in the woods starving to death? Let's remember that these are just my opinions on the matter. I think any subclass can find a home in the right campaign at the right table. To be the best Ranger means to go unseen by your target, a stalker of the night, or perhaps the gloom. That's right, the best Ranger subclass is the Gloom Stalker, to no one's surprise. The Gloom Stalker was the boogeyman's boogeyman. Those that hunted the night would be hunted in turn by the Gloom Stalker. Starting at 3rd level, we get some extra spells added to our spell list. Unlike other classes, we don't automatically know these spells, they're just options now. The Sky itself might seem weird for a Ranger, but I think it fits the Gloom Stalker pretty well. It's a good spell to have for out-of-combat encounters. Road Trip is amazing, great for hiding and infiltrating your entire party. Fear is a cone effect that makes enemies run away from you. It's strange for a Ranger, but again, it's very on brand for this Ranger. It's not my favorite spell, though. Greater invisibility on a Ranger? I mean, you thought the Predator was scary. And Seeming is an illusion spell that lasts for 8 hours and changes the entire group's appearance. So it's a real tricksy sort of list. I like it. Give it 4.5 out of 5. Also, at 3rd level, we get Dread Ambusher, which is stupidly amazing. First, we get a bonus to our initiative equal to our wisdom modifier. We already have a high dex. We're getting an extra +2 or so isn't going to hurt. Until the end of our first turn in combat, our speed increases by 10 feet, which will help us get into a good position or out of trouble. When we take the attack action on that first turn, we get an additional weapon attack to go along with our regular attacks. If that specific attack hits, then we do an additional 1d8 damage. This is literally the definition of a first strike ability. But we aren't even done. We also get Umbral Sight, which somehow might even be stronger. We get Dark Vision up to 60 feet or an additional 30 feet if we already have Dark Vision. And if we are in darkness, we are invisible to anything using darkness to see us. So anything with darkness, which are the vast majority of monsters that you might fight. Orcs, goblins, most undead, everything. At 7th level comes Iron Mind, which gives proficiency with wisdom saving throws. This is a short and sweet ability. I think getting extra saving throw proficiencies is kind of underrated. You could easily, with this class, take Resiliency and Constitution, rounding out the con score, and get proficiency and Constitution saving throws. You'd end up with 4 out of the 6 saving throws at that point. We forget that sometimes being tough isn't just having a high AC or a lot of hit points. It's also having good saving throws. At 11th level, we get Stalker's Flurry. Once on a turn, if we miss with a weapon attack, we can make another weapon attack as part of that action. So if we miss with our offhand bonus action attack, we can make another. If we miss with an attack of opportunity with our reaction, we can make another. I think This is particularly good for our Dread Ambusher additional attack, because it gets an extra 1d8 damage added to it, but only if we really make it stick. And finally, 15th level gives Shadowy Dodge. When a creature makes an attack that doesn't have an advantage against us, we can use our reaction to impose disadvantage on that attack. A nice way to utilize our reaction to add more defense to our character. It's probably the weakest of all the Gloom Stalker abilities, but it's also the one we're least likely to get based on its high level. So, a Gloom Stalker. This subclass looks at all the other subclasses and just blows them out of the water. Some of the newer ones, like the updated Beastmaster and the Drake Warden, are pretty decent, but this guy is OP as hell. So for the best, we go a long, long way down to the worst. The Hunter is an old school subclass hailing from the original player's handbook, right along with the Beastmaster. But unlike its sister, the Beastmaster, it didn't get a nice overhaul in Tasha's. We are the quintessential hunter, tracking and killing our prey. But not a monster hunter, that's apparently a different subclass. At 3rd level, we get Hunter's Prey, which lets you choose one from 3 options. This will be a theme throughout the subclass. Colossus Slayer lets us, once per turn, do an extra 1d8 damage with the weapon attack if the target is below its maximum hit points. This is the most consistent and the one we're most likely to pick. Giant Killer lets us, when a large or larger creature within 5 feet misses us with an attack, use our reaction to attack back. Large creatures aren't particularly uncommon, but if you don't fight one, this ability is basically useless. And remember, large creatures also have like 10 or 15 foot reach, so they gotta be standing right next to you. Hornbreaker lets us, once per turn, when we make a weapon attack against a creature, make another attack against a different creature as long as it's within 5 feet of the original target. Again, kind of niche. In my experience, even big groups of goblins are usually spread out at least a little, and if they're not, an area effect spell would probably be better. 7th level gives Defensive Tactics. We choose from another 3 options. Escape the Horde gives disadvantage on attacks of opportunity against us. This will let us move around the battlefield easier, but Multi-attack defense lets us, when a creature hits us with an attack, get a +4 to our AC against all subsequent attacks from that specific creature for the rest of our turn. This one's not too bad, especially at higher levels, fighting nasty giants and dragons that get a bunch of attacks. This seems to be the obvious choice. Steel Will gives advantage on saving throws against the frightened condition. Being frightened sucks, but this is super specific and very niche. 11th level gives multi-attack. We pick from 2 options. Volley lets us use an action to make a ranged attack against every creature we wish within 10 feet of a point we designate within the weapon's range, potentially hitting a lot of enemies, potentially at most 16, I think? If they're all clumped together, which, how often does that happen? Whirlwind Attack is the melee version. Use an action to attack every creature within 5 feet of us. This is possible number is only 8. Probably a bit less useful unless you're really focused on melee combat. Sure, these might seem like a lot of attacks, but they're spread out. It's almost always better to buckle down and focus fire on one enemy to kill it, not just a wounded. A creature with 1 hit point is just as dangerous as one with 100. Finally, at 15th level, we get Superior Hunter's Defense, which to no one's surprise gives 3 options to choose from. Evasion lets us, when we make a dex save, for half damage. If we make that save, take no damage at all, and only half damage even if we do fail. It's a pretty good ability, until you consider that we are 15th level, and the rogue gets this at 7. And that doesn't get any better with Uncanny Dodge, either. When you get hit by an attack, we use our reaction to cut that damage in half. Sound good? Yeah, it is. But the rogue gets this one at level 5. People wonder why Rangers multi-class with rogues so much. We do get one new option. Stand Against the Tide lets us, when a creature misses us with a melee attack, use our reaction to redirect that attack to another creature close enough. Not too bad, but it can interfere with some of the earlier options that also require a reaction. So to be clear, I don't want to say this subclass is terrible. There's nothing bad here. But they don't get an expanded spell list, which kind of stinks. though it's not as impactful as other classes. This is changing in the next edition, though. Only the Beastmaster and Drake Warden fall into this boat, and they're pet subclasses with their little buddies to fall back on, so the Hunter falls a little behind in comparison. It is a fairly simple subclass to play with, only a few abilities to choose from. This could be pretty good for a newbie just coming into D&D. I'll also say that the Ranger as a whole, and this subclass as well, are getting a bit of a redesign in the 5.5 edition, or whatever you want to call it. That will hopefully breathe some new life into this subclass. In the previous Paladin video, I kind of talked about how the best and the worst were pretty close together. Is that the case here? Oh, hell no. The Gloom Stalker is way out front, miles away. And as we've seen, the most powerful subclass might not be a subclass at all, but a multi-class with the Rogue. No surprise there. But the Hunter isn't so far at the bottom. The Monster Hunter has abilities that can be pretty clunky and not worded very well. The Fey Wanderer, many people's favorite, has a bunch of abilities that are super niche and might never come up. It just also happens to have a bunch of abilities that are pretty good. So you hang in there, Hunter. So there are my opinions on both the best and the worst subclasses for the Ranger in D&D 5e. What would have been your choices? Tell us in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, smash that like button, check out our other videos over here, and I'll see you in the parlor.